So the team behind Clair Obscur Expedition 33, arguably last year's most famous game, have come out and said that the amount of work that was required to complete the game was basically twice that of regular AAA studios. Their main reasons being the fact that they were a tiny indie studio, their budget is quite low, and surprisingly another one that kind of caught me off guard was that the province that the game studio has been built up and developed in is kind of lacking in game developer talent. So they had to resort to juniors and first-time game developers to create the masterpiece that they have. The creative director said that the staffing approach that the company took was basically partly born out of necessity, saying that the city that they're situated in was super young and it wasn't generally a place where senior people tended to go, as there weren't very safe options. This meant that it was difficult to hire experienced developers, and it made it quite difficult to recruit people onto, a first-time project within this team. One of the lead designers also added that it's almost impossible to hire people if you don't have the money, which wasn't there at the beginning for the studio. But as with all things, there's a silver lining, and I think creativity is born out of this necessity, as the developers have mentioned. And they found that with the 30 or so staff they had on the team, the younger developers came in without any previous expectations of how studios are supposed to be run. And they brought in fresh ideas that was very valuable for the project as a whole. And it kind of makes sense based off how creative the game actually was. And this sort of echoes another article that I came across, which echoes the Assassin's Creed X director, the one who created Revelations and Unity. He's called for a fundamental restructure of how AAA games are made within the industry, saying that the larger conglomerates with, large-scale organizational bureaucracy tend to slow down the pace and creation speed of the games that are being made these days. He says by adding people to a problem stagnates the people that were already being efficient on it. It just creates a lot of variable noise. So I think the future lies in smaller teams. And for me, I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, look at the sort of quality of games that have been pumped out that have achieved such heights with small teams. I mean, look at Hades, look at Hollow Knight. These are all absolutely astounding games that have, blown the entire industry out of the water with such small indie teams for the most part. I think it sort of echoes the pattern we see even within governments and countries. The moment they get too large and there's too much bureaucracy, there's a slowdown and stagnation in progress, in being able to get anything done. And it's no surprise that this has happened within the gaming industry as well. And just echoing back to the point on creativity, I think this is what allows creativity to thrive, is when there are constraints put onto it. You're sort of forced to think outside of the box and, create things that weren't an industry standard before. I mean, this whole topic has basically just made me think on the movie Everything Everywhere at Once. I'm not sure if you've kind of delved into the development and creation of that movie, but they were running on a very tight budget and a team that didn't have that much special effects experience. And what they've managed to create was world class and, ended up winning a lot of Oscars. So the same sort of patterns are applying here again in the video game industry, and I'm not surprised. And I think this is a trend that we're sort of seeing as well, is that a lot of, the consumers are tending to lean more towards indie games these days. There seems to be this community-wide agreement that anything that is made from a AAA studio is not to be trusted. And, we've obviously been burned in the past with microtransactions and unreleased, games that aren't released well and glitchy on release. And I think the gaming community has every right to feel this way. It tends to be the indie games that are released with so much passion and love because, they come back to the core of what it means to create video games, to create experiences for players alike that, kind of take them out of the real world and, create something that's memorable. I think that spark has been lost in the larger AAA gaming developing industry because, of the large, again, bureaucracy, and which sort of showing that, in the larger AAA studios, they're becoming more of a workplace than a place that develop games, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Do you think the future of gaming is made by smaller studios that will likely be able to, capitalize on creativity, or do you think AAA games will continue to dominate? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you around.